Hello, everyone, and welcome to Product-Led Growth Leaders. We've got a really cool guest today, Vincent Jong. He is a book author, a highly successful sales and growth leader. He's got expert knowledge in business development, operational excellence, and the intersection between PLG and SLG. He is a serial founder of many different companies, Funnel Fox, which is an engagement platform for sales and customer success, Connected Product, which does B2B sales, SaaS development, and Growth Machines, which helps with the PL motions for SLG, I believe. And he is the VP of product for Dealfront, which is a go-to-market platform empowering organizations to win deals in European marketplaces. Vincent Young, thanks for being here.
Thanks. Great to be here, Thomas. Thanks for the great intro.
Awesome. So let's start off with talking about well, first of all, a little bit about your background and what kind of led you to this the direction and the kind of work that you do today.
Sure. Yeah. So if I think back, there's been like kind of like this thread through my entire career. I started early on already as a sales rep. So I did 3 years of telesales. I did a few years of business development. So I got very familiar with that space. But I've always wanted to run my own business at the time already, did a few small things even before the things that you mentioned. And so I decided to start Funnel Fox. So that was kind of my step into sales and marketing software. At the time, I was the founder and CEO of Funnel Fox, with a company that I ran for about 8 years. And so for 8 years, I was working together with sales teams, figuring out like how can we best help them, especially in the day-to-day of the sales rep. How can we make them more effective, more productive, and those kind of things. After those 8 years, I moved on to a position at ZoomInfo, which is a very well-known company in the sales and marketing space. And I became a product leader there. So that was a step I didn't expect myself, but I was asked if I wanted to take that role and figured, let's give it a try. And turns out that a lot of the skills you have as a founder are very transferable, or actually are a lot of the product management skills that exist. Yeah, so it was there for a little while, and then eventually I'm based in Europe, and so the traveling to the US was a lot. So eventually I left, and soon after joined now Dealfront, which is a European-based, again, sales and marketing software company. So all in all, about 12 years in that space. Yeah, having a lot of fun.
Nice, nice. Thank you for that extra context. So let's talk about the PLG SLG overlap, and you know specifically what should people be thinking about when they are in an organization that's slanted heavily to one side or the other. Let's maybe start with the side of probably more obvious if you're SLG and thinking about PLG, but then the other way I think is a little might not be as obvious to the audience.
I would say actually it's taking the step from being sales led to becoming more product led, and it's not, you don't just become product led, you become a bit more product led, right? Taking that step is actually where I think most companies are struggling, because if you go the other way around, if you start product led, you it's much easier to decide, okay, on this segment of customers, I'm going to add some sales resources to increase my conversion rates. That's basically what you do. And that's what initially became product-led sales, right? But if you're sales-led, you have a lot of different things in place, different systems, processes, definitions of what is a lead and when do I reach out to them, all these kinds of things. You are very good, for example, at knowing who's in your pipeline, like what are they, the right profile customer, who am I speaking with, but you have no clue what they're actually doing right now, which is something that you know a lot more about when you're focusing on behavior, when you're product led. And so these kind of steps are hard for companies to take, to becoming from a working sales led model to take a leap of faith to see if the product led model is actually additive and not cannibalizing, and if it even actually works for them, right? So yeah, it's definitely challenging for companies.
Yeah, can tell us about some of the steps involved with that? Because, there's so many organizational factors, right? You've got the product team, tied in with the engineering team. And, there's a lot of PLG companies that grow up from that, and we're literally product first. We're like building it and then almost figuring out how to sell it later. I imagine there's got to be a lot of organizational shift. Does it involve coaching, or is it just hiring the right high level person who pieces it together? What are some of the things organizations should think about when they're making that shift from an SLG mindset and trying to turn into a
Mhm.
PLG?
A big part of it is the mindset, actually, and it helps to bring someone in who has done this, for either coaching, consulting, or just hiring someone. It depends a bit what your possibilities are and your needs as well. But for example, right, if you look at product usage data, which is like if you're doing product-led growth, like this is one of your core instruments to see if things are going well and to decide on next actions. Now, a sales-led company has product usage data. It's not that they don't track things, right? Like they do, but they're not talking about it in the context of a go-to-market motion. So it's completely separate. Like go-to-market is marketing and sales, and they'll sign a deal. And when that's done, they'll hand it over to the product team. Maybe there's been a trial somewhere in that process, but generally they hand it over. And from there on, this is not really part of the conversation anymore until we start talking about churn, right? And that's then the CS topic, kind of. And if you're more product led in your go to market, you are looking at these things. So how are people adopting our product the moment that we sell to them, regardless of if we gave them access earlier, yes or no? But that onboarding piece needs to become part of that conversation. Are we activating enough of our customers so that we are selling to retain, right? Or are they not activating at all and we just have 1 year contracts going around and they churn at the end of that? So these are the kind of things in terms of mindset that that people need to start realizing that is actually really important, and that can drive results also.
Yeah, I was surprised when I went to a recent PLG go to market conference in San Francisco, and I wasn't totally surprised, but it was mostly sales folks, and they viewed product as just one of many channels to bring in revenue into the company, which is different from a lot of folks on the more engineering side of things, the product team side, which just view it as let's just make the product great, and then that's where sales will come from. They're not even thinking of the other sales channels, I think.
Yeah.
So
So I'd say it's neither of those two, because the product is, on the one hand, it's what you sell, and so that's for sure. And I thought at first that might be the engineering perspective. It is definitely what you sell, and there's like, if what you sell is not good, then of course you're going to struggle at some point as a business. At least most do. And the other part is, how do you sell? And I do agree, though, with the notion that the product is only one of your possible channels. And I emphasize always that companies should consider any channel, but if you're not considering the product, you're probably missing out on something, right? So it's product, it's marketing, it's sales, it's partnerships, community, whatever makes sense for your model, use it. But there's so much possible in the product right now that it should also be something that can be used in the go-to-market, especially with all the go-to-market metrics being so much under pressure right now.
yeah, so speaking of go to market, how does a go to market platform work? What is that, and how does, when someone signs up for a go to market platform, what is that all about?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Dealfront came from the merger of two businesses. The one was Leadfeeder, which was focused on web visitor identification. So it would tell you which companies are visiting your website, who could you reach out to at this company, and all kinds of workflows around that. And then EchoBot, a sales intelligence company, which would have data around companies and contacts that you could define your addressable market and create lists from that, or things like that, and then distribute that to your sales team, for example. Those are both very important pieces of a total go-to-market flywheel, as we call it. And in the meantime, we've added further products to that as well. So what a go-to-market platform is in that case is that it basically gives you all the tools you need to run that full motion. Now, we don't have everything yet, but what we have is good. And with, like, the goal is that you go to one place for most of your go-to-market needs, and therefore go-to-market platform.
So should we think of it as a CRM that's targeted for specifically the kinds of needs and knowledges that you would need for the go-to-market stage?
So we don't replace the CRM. We actually connect with them, with all the main ones. But it's, it's those things that actually drive the pipeline. So, for example, identifying companies that visit your website will help you figure out which companies to target, right? The same way as you can do a search for certain criteria or companies that have mentioned this or that on their website, and those are the kind of businesses that I want to sell to. And then that information can flow into, for example, our B2B advertising product, which could be like a light ABM product. And with that, you can start getting the attention of people. And then you have your sales reps who can use our contact data and the signals, let's say job ads, to figure out who to talk with and what to say to them. And so it's all these different pieces of the puzzle that make that flywheel turn.
Great. So tell us about Dealfront's focus on European markets. I thought that was interesting. Is it just this is our backyard, so this is what we're going to deal with? Or is there anything strategically different about European markets that's the reason?
So so Europe is definitely our backyard. I mean, one company was Finnish, the other was German. We have a lot of our people are in Europe, but we are also in the US, and we've had teams there for a long time. A significant part of our revenue is also coming from there for a long time already. So yes, in our communication, we've spoken a lot about Europe because it felt also that there is just the needs of the companies there are not being served by what else is out there. But we're seeing now that also the regulatory landscape or the system, the way that it works in Europe. So I'm talking about GDPR, of course, which is very important in this line of business. The US is going that direction as well, more and more, especially this year. Again, there's a lot of movement there. So that's why, and that's where we're strong, right? So that's really where we've invested early on. We're now a German company, so that says a lot. If you're talking about GDPR, we take it seriously, and but we managed to work it into a working product still, right? So you can be compliant, but you can still sell well, and I think that's kind of like the balance that companies are trying to find. So we are focusing now. So we've set Europe, but US is definitely in focus, and we actually have some cool stuff planned for that later this year.
And I don't know if we mentioned it on the recording, but Vincent is in Barcelona for the audience, Barcelona, Spain. So how about the product teams that you work with? One, do you consider Dealfront itself to be a PLG product or aspiring to be PLG, or is it more so that you're assisting PLG?
So this was actually one of the reasons how I got to writing the book that we touched on briefly already. So one of the businesses was product led, and one of them was pure traditional sales. And we then put them together. We're actually one company now. And so we had to put both of those models at scale together, which is really when you start seeing like how they develop differently over time and why also, right? So we are definitely, I would see us as a product-led business, even though you cannot sign up for everything we have just online. But we definitely have that mindset I spoke about, like having it as part of our conversations, moving towards being more and more product-led on the different parts of the product where we're not yet. Yes, we are definitely doing that. But we also know when to lean on sales, right? Like, because there's a right place and the right segment for each of those, and we have a strong sales organization, and we definitely also are developing that. So I think this is really how companies will operate in the future as well. Like, you want to use the product-led motion to make your sales more efficient, to maybe serve segments you else couldn't serve because of the financials that wouldn't work out, to maybe help your sales team be more effective by identifying the right customers. But you do want to have a sales team, and there's nothing wrong with that, because that's how you can then get to bigger value, larger deals with customers in your market.
Now, in terms of the makeup of your core product teams, and I usually think of the makeup as having a product representative that knows about the marketplace, a technology lead who knows how plausible the features are going to be, and hopefully someone from UX who's going to design it and put it together. One is that, does that resemble the product makeup of your core product teams? And two, do you find yourself bringing in more sales representation, being that you're trying to kind of strike this balance between the sales and the PLG? I don't know. I think about team makeups a lot, and I don't know how that varies from depending on the method of the company.
Absolutely, yeah. So for us, the technical part comes from the engineering organization. So we have also a really strong engineering organization. They're really easy to involve in conversations when we're doing discovery. So that tech part is covered there, and that's like a separate function, but it works seamless. The UX part, we have product design for that. So that's a separate team, but it falls under product, which is kind of classical, I guess, in that sense. And then we have the product managers, which are quite technical on our end, I have to say, but for good reason, because it's a platform becomes complex quickly, right? If you have these different products that need to work together. If we're talking then about how do we implement the go-to-market part, we are working with the growth team a lot on that. So but that's more like the optimizations. Like we have a sign up flow, for example. So keep always learning on that, always iterating. So that's the growth team that covers that. And it's important in my view that that's a separate team, because I've tried this in the past with feature PMs, let's call it, and that's really hard for them to do, to iterate on, let's say, one button or one step of that process, when they're also expected to do discovery and plan the next cycle for the new feature that needs to be delivered, right? There's tension there, and it hasn't worked in my experience to have one person do both of these things. So the growth team is really good at that, and therefore we try to put that responsibility there. Now, when we're talking about how to combine it with sales, that is currently more driven by probably more by the leadership in product, where we talk more with the the strategic level go-to-market functions, figure out where there are gaps, and how we can help there. But I would love to see more of that come from the PMs as well, because I do think it's a critical skill for PMs, especially as they become more senior. I think that business sense and understanding what's good for the company is really important.
Right. It is a difference between the person who's in Jira all day and just working on backlog items versus the person who's talking to the stakeholders and getting an understanding of what does our company need to do to thrive, and transferring that into the product.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in pursuing when companies pursue PLG, in your observation, what are some of the common things that they maybe get wrong, or misconceptions that they have, and opportunities for them to kind of change the way they think about things in order to be more successful with that?
A few come to mind right away. So I think the most important, though, is that PLG is not just about lowering your prices and getting a bunch of low value users in. Like, it's not. Like, you can do a lot with it, even if you have higher value deals. Definitely if you're selling 40, 50K deals, for sure there are opportunities for PLG throughout the go-to-market process. If you're selling 6-figure deals higher, maybe you don't need to, like that, maybe, but it's a matter of time. So I personally prefer to at least be familiar with it, because we've seen that it's just moving further up market, right? It started with consumers like Facebook and so on. Then it went more to Spotify. That's kind of where PLG then went. Then we went more into like the B2B space. So we got the Calendly's of the world, the Typeforms. Then we got the things like Leadfeeder, right? And HubSpot and so on. So now we're talking a few hundred a month already. And we're just moving further up, right? And the rules change a little bit every time. You cannot, for example, apply the same scientific method as you could at the beginning with millions of users as you can now with if you have 500 companies as an enterprise target market, right? Then you won't have the same volume. But a lot of the principles still hold true. So I do think there's something to look at for every company, and it can well be that it has more to do with qualification of the leads for your sales team, for example, or that it has to do with expansion. How do you expose further modules or products to your customers that they can start adopting and then buy from you? So there's just lots of places where PLG can help. And yeah, so I would say open your mind, and this is kind of again like what I wrote about. So it's mostly focused about that. Like, look at all the things you can do with it, because yeah, your competition probably is.
Right. So your book, Product Led Sales, it recently came out. Tell us who's the target reader for this, and what are they going to get from reading your book?
Yeah, so it's kind of the audience we've been talking about. So it's companies that are doing sales today, so B2B SaaS companies, and are thinking about, hey, what about PLG, right? Do I do something with this? Is this something I should look at? How do I implement it? So that's really the audience for it. Yeah, the point is to help people open their mind a bit and understand that the things that we just went through, right? Like, there is more to it. There's very useful combinations of product and sales. It's not either or, it's both that you should probably have in your go-to-market approach. And a lot of it is actually based around the stories that we went through as we merged those two businesses for Dealfront. So I kind of tried to use that narrative and pull in some interviews also with other people from the space to show what's possible, basically.
Awesome. Vincent Young, where can people find you, and what you're working on and thinking about? LinkedIn, any place else?
LinkedIn is good. You can also check out my blog, Growth Machines. It's on growthmachines.com. And yeah, that has all the information. I post a bit more on LinkedIn, so connect with me there. Always happy to get in touch with new people.
Awesome. Vincent, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Bye, Thomas.
Bye.